Welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Office chats with Northwest faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends to hear about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Career Services Assistant Director Travis Klein.
And I'm Hannah Christian, the Director of Career Services here at Northwest. And today's guest on our show, little drum roll, is
Monica McCollough. Thanks for having me. And I like I have an integrated title is what I'm hearing
You're
this
told.
morning. And I love that. I love that because it's, I think, a true collaboration of what I do. So
tell us what your integrated title is that you just kind of came up with off the bat here.
So starting off, first, I'm an alumni. So I was a student back in the fall of 2000, which seems eons ago now. Currently working as a small business owner, as a massage therapist. I own Therapeutic Massage of Maryville here in town. And I'm also serving as an adjunct in Ag Sciences this semester.
All right. Welcome,
So triple
Monica.
Bearcat. Yeah.
Very excited. Yeah. And you did your undergraduate and your master's here, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So double Bearcat there, plus an adjunct, triple Bearcat, right? And alum. Well, no, alum is 2 degrees. So yeah, lots of Bearcatness. All right. So let's see where to start. Well, let's just start with your business. Tell us a little bit about Therapeutic Massage.
So Therapeutic Massage of Maryville it's a business that focuses obviously on therapeutic massage, but it's really connecting with clients, helping them get in touch with themselves, relax, what healthy therapeutic touch is. And really, if you're in the massage industry or if you're a regular receiver of massage, you understand the importance of how personal it can be as a business. And so what we strive for, how we strive to be a little bit different, is that personal connection with each and every client. So I meet with people one-on-one, kind of find out the issues with their tissues. As a massage therapist, we do focus on the soft tissues of the body. And so that's what separates us from other industries. And then we do our best to try to work with the brain's connection with soft tissues. So i.e. through the central nervous system, and helping that person to relax and reduce tension.
So how did you, where did this interest come from? It kind of surprises me that you're like, oh, I have a master's degree, but I also want to be a massage therapist. Kind of talk me through that thought process.
Yeah, it's, oftentimes people that I meet, we kind of fall sideways into careers. And I think this was a situation where I just kind of fell into it. So we were at a situation in our lives. And when I say we, I'm speaking of, my husband, Chad, and I were college sweethearts. We're both Northwest alum. And we met here actually in the ag department. So, that's a podcast for another day. But I was suffering for a long time from migraine headaches. And so trying to find a solution to that, and also something locally, years ago, someone had suggested, hey, try like a therapeutic massage. And for what I had going on in terms of muscle tension, it was the best thing. It was a total game changer in terms of my wellness care. So, and I hesitate to say healthcare because we're a complement to healthcare, but we're separate from the healthcare industry if you look at certain avenues. And so it very much complemented what I needed to help reduce tension headaches. And, as we had children and continued schooling and got into jobs and things like that, I realized we didn't have a lot available here in town. I was traveling outside of Maryville to receive services for some time. And then I found a therapist here in Maryville. And that therapist, one day during session, as we were talking about life and kids and how to balance all the things, had just asked, have you ever thought about doing this for a business? Because while your kids are in school, you could set your hours to be able to serve clients then, but then also maintain what you're doing as a mom. And I loved it. So long story short, here I am. I went back and received a certification from the state to do that. And I've been doing that for the past 7 years now.
What was you mentioned you met your husband in the ag department. We need to do a whole podcast about Northwest couples, I think, because it's
Agreed,
a thing. There's a lot of us. But so was ag what your undergraduate degree was in? Was it an ag business degree, or what was your degree that you originally got from Northwest?
Funny thing, my first degree was in horticulture, which is something that I do probably more as a hobby right now, given our life stage of life with the kids and things like that. But we do own and operate a small farming business. And then, yeah, he's was an agronomy major and I was a horticulture major. So the rest is history. And now we're both working in business related fields, but we did have business minors, if that helps. The cool thing about ag, though, is that it's all related. Um, and we could go on for hours about that. It's something that I'm really passionate about. Oftentimes we hear the phrase, farm to table, and we think about food naturally. As a massage therapist, I think farm to table, and I think about the products that I put on someone's skin and how that's absorbed and where does it come from and the purity of it. And, everything from the textiles that we use. How does cotton feel versus a microfiber, type application? So there's a lot that goes into it. And the thing that I garner the most, and I think that I'm most passionate about when it comes to agriculture, is just how interrelated it is to every facet of everyday life for every person on the planet. It's extremely broad when you start to get into the weeds of it. So it's, yeah. And I appreciate it because I grew up in an urban area and I just had no clue exactly how impactful it was, to our state, to our nation. I mean, when we think international business, it is the one main international business that comes to mind for me personally. So there's a lot to it. But for me, on the offset, what put me in the ag department originally was, as a very young first time freshman, I thought I wanted to get into landscape design, maybe someday own a bed and breakfast type thing, because those are just things I'm naturally passionate about and enjoy. And so I remember whoever I met with, when you're working, it was before I officially had an advisor. They're like, oh, landscape design, horticulture, agriculture, boom. And the rest is history. And it was a good fit.
So you were already interested kind of in doing your own thing, even from the very beginning, right? I'm going to work in landscape design, maybe have a bed and breakfast. That's a sort of a business of its own, right? Kind of on the side there. I was going to ask how you got into horticulture, but you already answered that question. How did you decide to come to Northwest? Like, where did you come from, and what made you decide specifically to come here?
Oh, wow. So it sounds cliche because I hear so many people say this, but I came up for a campus visit and it just felt like home, and I was very young at the time. I had kind of an unorthodox journey into college. People that know me well know a little bit about my journey. And I was 17. It should have been my senior year of high school, but I actually started my freshman year of college. There's history behind that. And I'm not going to say it was because I was super smart, but I did have a lot of grit and a lot of determination, probably much to my mother's anxiety. And now I'm raising kids. And so what goes around comes around, because sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So, but it's a journey. So I came in again in an unorthodox fashion, but everything that was meant to be happened at the right time. But yeah, the first time I stepped foot on campus and did a tour, it just felt like home. And I remember telling people early on, like, oh yeah, I'm going to stay 4 years, get my degree, and then move on. And, I had other plans and aspirations. And the longer I was here, things just kept falling into place. And here we are. It's 2024. I stepped foot on this campus in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2000.
So talk me through then. You're getting your horticulture degree. You graduate with an undergrad degree. What was your career focus or thought, or like, what were you thinking as a senior in college? You're in the ag department. What's your thought process at that point?
Yeah. So, I began working full time at Northwest during my undergrad as a way to help pay for school. I mean, that at the time in that stage of life, that was the priority. And I remember, saying to my boss, like, once I finish my degree, I'm going to move on, and this is going to be it. This has been fun. And of course, like all of us, stayed. So I was an employee of Northwest till about, if memory serves me correct, I want to say it was 2014. And during that time, we had our third baby. And so that was a game changer for us as transplants. Neither one of us had family really close by. We both found great jobs here and agreed to stay. And and let's see, let me back up just prior to that. I'm kind of reminiscing as we go down memory lane here. But after my undergrad, I remember working for a time, having kids, and then this master's program was new in development, and it really piqued my interest because it was about leadership. So it was that master's in higher ed leadership. And I forget now even what year that came, somewhere in like 2007-ish, maybe 6, 7, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I had finished my undergrad and then worked for a couple of years, and then this master's program came available, and I was just really, really intrigued. Even though it had nothing really to do with my undergrad, but leadership is one of those topics that's valuable in every industry. And I got into that thinking, well, if I stay within higher ed for a career, I should probably continue my education, because I do see value in that. But that program, we went through it cohort style. It was so impactful. I loved every aspect of it. We were part of that first cohort that went through, so kind of guinea pigs, I guess. But I loved every aspect of it. So it was a lot of work. We had a young family at the time. And then right after graduating with my master's, we found out we were going to have child number 3. And so there was a lot to take into consideration. And so then it wasn't long after I went ahead and I paused work for just a little bit to become a stay-at-home mom, and then slowly rejoined the workforce as our youngest child was in kindergarten. So yeah.
Because here's the thing. I'm going to take a sidebar, Travis.
No, it's fine.
1 kid is a lot. Like to go from 0 to 1 is a lot. But then you
Yes.
have 2 and you're like, I already have 1. The 2, it just adds on. But what people don't know is like, once you get that 3rd one, I don't know. It's like you have 12 kids now. I don't know what it
Yes.
is. Like when there's 2 parents and 2 kids, like you can like just be like, this is your kid for the day and this is your kid for the day. But when there's a 3rd kid in the mix, like it's like, what is going on? So I don't know. I just want to
Yes.
say that, like as a parent of 3 children, it's like having 16 cats or something. I don't know. Things just go crazy. So
Yes,
yes.
it's wonderful and it's beautiful. It can be so chaotic though sometimes too. And you know, people that know us through town know that like they're very close in age too. So technically they're not twins, but I sometimes feel like we're having triplets. So like next year, starting in the fall, all 3 of our kids will be in high school at the same time. And so, the level of busy, I don't know how we keep up, to be totally honest with you, but I do know that it's worth it. It's worthwhile. So it's fast and furious, but give me a few more years. I'm not going to know what to do with myself. But for right now, it's great. And I love it.
So you mentioned now that you're an adjunct instructor. And so tell us what you're doing for that role.
So I'm teaching a section called Ag Seminar, and it's primarily geared towards like sophomores, juniors, kind of a mid-level academic boost to help them prepare to enter the workforce, but it's not quite like senior seminar, for example. It also is designed to help our ag students learn about and search for and hopefully gravitate towards internships. In our industry in particular, we find that employers are typically looking for our students to have multiple internships before graduation or throughout that journey and be able to speak not only to the academic side, but to hands-on application. And so this is designed to keep that fresh in our students' mind and to help them on that journey. So it complements some of the other seminars that we have, definitely fills a need, and just helping those students realize, back in my day, you didn't even apply for an internship until you hit like junior year of college. And nowadays, I think, and I don't know, these are my thoughts. Someone correct me if, they have different thoughts. I'd love to hear them. But I think that employers want the balance of the academic side as well as the hands-on side. Knowing their work ethic, knowing what they can do from an applicable standpoint too, is highly valuable within an industry that's so hands-on. And ag is just that. So just trying to prepare our students better and to get them thinking about it. Some students, you had mentioned advice to students, and what I oftentimes tell my own kids plus students in the classroom is you've got to be curious and you've got to go out there and try, because we have sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as a parent, we have an over focus of pick it what you want to do for a living, pick a career path, something. And where I feel like I'm now pulling back and helping to re-educate myself as well as, young folks, is explore. You don't necessarily have to pick so early on, but explore and find what you're good at, find what your interests are. Oftentimes there's multiple avenues that you could do. So let's bridge that gap just a little bit and take some of the pressure off. Think about what you can do in this moment to fulfill your immediate needs and then branch out from there. So yeah, so ultimately I want to meet a student where they're at, help them solidify that foundation so they have a safe but concrete place to go figure out, okay, here's the different avenues within the industry that I've chosen. And then from there, you network, you get to meet people, you get to learn more in-depth aspects of particular industries that way. And then that choice becomes easier. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's my goal.
I often tell students internships are like test driving a car, like in an industry like business or ag or communications, those wide field, like, every business is an ag business in the Midwest. So what do you want to do? So with an internship,
Right.
you can try different things. You can try ag communication, you can try ag marketing, you can try ag sales, you can try, and it's a short-term commitment. You are not, it's a summer or a semester or whatever it is, and then you're done. And if you don't enjoy it, you've learned something too. It's amazing how many times students will come back from summer internships and talk with us in career services, and they'll say, it was fine, but it's not really what I want to do. And they'll see that as a failure. And it's like, no, that is not a failure. Like, you have learned that this part of the industry is not as attractive to you as you thought. So now you can focus on the others. Like, that's super valuable, because if you would have taken that as a job out of school, it's much harder to bail out of a job than it is an internship. There's an end in sight. That,
Yes.
things can happen to get you out of it. At the very least, you just stick it out and, suffer through, and then, take your lumps and learn from it. But it's so much easier to do that than to take a job. So I think students, they don't always think of internships as kind of the test drive mentality, but I do think that there's a huge value in that, especially in those broad industries like an ag or business, or those. We have a bunch of fields here at Northwest that are, there's a lot of choices. So sometimes you don't know what they are till you try them on, and internships are a good way to do that. And the more you do, the more experience you have. There's always that conundrum students have of, they say they want 2 to 4 years of experience, but I have the degree. Well, that's how you build experience while you get your degree. You do internships, and then you have both. So then you can get those jobs when you graduate. So yeah, I really do like the way that ag has structured the ag seminar classes. You have university seminar for those first time freshmen, that first couple semesters or first semester. You have ag seminar in the middle, and then, you've got the equivalent of a senior seminar with the PBW or whatever that the initials for that class are that Rod teaches. So they kind of get it, birth, midlife, end of their college career. They get some advice, some help, and there's people to, guide them instead of figure it out on your own, which I think is really hard for students to do. So Ag's got it figured out. I feel like you guys do it a really good way.
Well, thank you. I can't take all the credit for it, but I
Right.
love that analogy that you just used. And I think I might steal that if
Yeah,
you're
absolutely. Please.
comfortable with me stealing it. I
No.
think some students would benefit hearing that. But what a beautiful stage of their life to figure that out, especially if they're narrowing it down. Like if they come back with the feedback that says, oh, this is absolutely what I do not want to do. Just like you said, there's value in that, and it helps so much. So yeah, well said.
I think one of the best things
Oh,
we can teach college students is to gracefully fail too. I think that's really hard, especially for high
Yes.
achieving high school students, that sometimes professionally you will fail, and how you react to failure, how you learn from it, that's the most important part. So I think that's not in, we don't tell them that when they're high school students and come to tour campus, but I do feel like that is one of our jobs as a university, is to prepare them to know what that is, how to recover from it, and then gracefully do it. Sorry, Hannah, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Absolutely.
no, I was just going to ask, did you do an internship, Monica, when you were an undergrad?
I did not, but I was working full time. So I think that was like an internship that was trial by fire. Honestly, it was a sink or swim internship. But it was good. I mean, I learned so much, and I had the greatest team of people that I worked with. So it made it all worthwhile.
I think so. That's also a kicker for me. My next question is going to be, how are, in your perception, students different? But before I ask that question, which I just asked, sorry, Travis, that's going to be a terrible
You can
edit.
pre-think, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's good.
The thing that I see is, because I also worked like
Mhm.
like 45 hours a week while I was going to school. And so I never had an internship, but those jobs were sort of like a higher level of internship. Because I mean, if you didn't like them, you were like, I'm going to school. I don't have to work this job for the rest of my life. But at the same
Mhm.
time, you were getting those skills on a whole different level, even than an internship, because this was like, I was here for 5 years. It took me 5 years to get through the first time because I was working. And but so I graduated with a degree and 4 years of work experience, right? So
Yeah.
again, back to Travis's statement, like they're asking you need to have experience and you need to have a degree, but that's how we pulled it off back in the day, in my olden days. Like, is because I was working at a, low paying job doing something in the industry I wanted to go into, which by the time I worked in it and got my degree in it, then I didn't want to be in it. But
you shifted, yeah.
I did, yeah. I tried to fail gracefully right there at the very end. Okay, but this goes back to my question. You've been out of the college scene for quite a while, right? If you left in
Mhm.
2014 and now you're coming back in, I'm going to say it, post-COVID.
Yep.
What are some of the differences that you see in students, maybe in your experience in the last couple of semesters?
Wow. Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. On a positive note, because I know sometimes we tend to focus on the negative when we talk, and sometimes even young people, I don't know if we just get burned out or jaded, but sometimes we focus on the negative. So I want to start off with the positive. Coming back to work with students when I had been removed from that for several years, it gave me the most hope I have had in a long time about society and where we're headed. We have awesome students. Like, I'm impressed every day with the students that I interact with. So that to me is the most impactful. That's the number one takeaway. Even even in moments of struggle, I'm happy and proud of the student body that we have. Because this is your time. Like we said, it is your time to fail gracefully. So let's figure it out. So yeah, that is what probably keeps me coming back. That's what keeps me completely energized, even just to come in on a very small glimpse as an adjunct and work with this population. So yeah, so differences specifically, I would say, and I'm not going to mention names, but I'll talk specifically about my students this semester. Primarily, I'm going to speak in general terms because it's not each and every one of them, but quite a few of them are students who fit the demographic of a first-time freshman, but they have enough dual credit that they're reaching some of the upper course level type statuses. So, first time freshman, but they might be a sophomore, or some of them even might be a junior. This group is very hardworking. They know more about technology than I do. I'll say that for sure. Or maybe I'm just showing my age. They want to work ahead. They want the information. They want it rapid, and they want to go ahead and check those boxes and get the assignments done. What I love about that is then when we are in class together, I feel like we can capitalize on that time a little bit better because they're a little more engaged. So I really, really appreciate that so much. So such a positive difference. I don't think I was that motivated when I was that age. So huge difference that way. So yeah.
That's very interesting.
Mhm.
That also brings up another just little snippet that not career, well, I guess it is career focused, but not focused on anything specific other than Travis and I talk all the time about there are benefits to your work that are not monetary and maybe not tangible. And what people don't see, there's a lot of like higher education is not valuable. Like, you don't even need a college degree. Why would you work there? It's just like teaching. You're not going to get rich doing that. What people don't understand is how intrinsically motivating and satisfying it is to be able to work with young people you're investing in the future. Like that's what you're doing here. Like you're serving and investing in the future of other people's lives. And there is nothing, I mean, nursing, keeping people alive, things like that. But there's almost nothing in the world that gives you a feeling like you made a difference and that you've changed the trajectory of this 20-year-old student who was kind of floundering in life, and they didn't know, they were losing confidence. They didn't know what they wanted to do. And to be able to come alongside them, and then you're not doing anything for them. You're just encouraging them to go and grow into the human that you see there. Like, to be able to do that for someone is so rewarding. Like, that's why we're here. People.
Well, it is. That. You bring up a great point. And something that I share with my students is our world is changing so fast. And just like you said, we're being fed information of, what's the value of college? Higher education is expensive. Is it worth it? And those are valid questions. I love challenging questions. Let's delve into that. What I tell my students is, you want to diversify yourself the same way you want to diversify a financial portfolio. So for example, students sometimes come to me and say things like, I'm burned out with class. I don't know if this is for me. I think I'm going to go into a trade. That's great. We need tradespeople too. But here's what I want you to think long-term, because I have an advanced degree. I am also working in a trade. We don't know what the next 15, 20, 25 years is going to hold for this young person going into the workforce. What if you did both? What's wrong with doing both? Because none of us have a crystal ball. And I think if you're diversified that way, you'll always be set up for success no matter what. I believe that there's more to the college experience than just the set of the academic realm. It's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to devalue it, that we need that level of education. But I think it's important for young people to not be so decisive that is the track that they have to take. So I'm someone that's done both a trade as well as, the academic cycle, and they complement each other. We don't have to pick one versus the other. Timing wise, it's hard to do all of it at the same time, but there is value. And if you're diversified that way, you will never be without a job. You will never be unemployed. And I think you can maximize your contribution to society. That in your life pays dividends. And I'm sure someone out there has, probably done research and can put some quantifiable numbers to this, but look at those who are top earners, and are they degree holders? Those are some of the questions I would ask or challenge students to ask of themselves within their profession. I know the particular industry that I'm a part of, you can have a very high success rate early on, but the lifespan of someone in that career, some people will say it tops out at 7 years. So it's like, yeah, you can kill it for that 7 years, but then what? And for those that last longer than 7 years, is that enough to, people are living longer. Is that enough to satisfy you as you go into, that phase where you're not really retired yet, but you're still wanting to contribute, but your body's wearing down physically. So just diversify yourself and don't feel like one is better than the other. I think that they can complement each other in terms of physical labor trades, as well as the education component behind it. I'm still a firm believer that, I came from an area, I grew up within a certain level of poverty, and it was education that had a huge impact in who I am today and how I overcame some of those obstacles early on. So it's never going to hurt, and it's always a worthwhile investment if you are educating yourself. That being said, the caveat to that is it is expensive. So you have to weigh your level of engagement. If you're the type of person that's not going to engage while you're here, yeah, it probably is a waste of time, or at least for right now. Maybe come back to it later. So if it's not the right fit right now, don't discount it that it's never the right fit forever. It's just, we need to do a better job. I try as a parent to do a better job of matching the system of education and where they're at, how receptive that individual student is to what we're teaching, where we're teaching, how we're teaching. So, yeah.
Wise words. Yeah, those are really wise words. I used to be a recruiter before I did this job. So we would do SOAR, where we bring in the freshmen, and Dr. Matt Baker, who we've had on the podcast before, so I'll link his video in the corner, but he would always say something to the freshmen I thought was really impactful. He would say that education is one of the few things that people want the least amount of for their money. Like, it is expensive to get a college degree and you pay to come to classes, But then students will get here and sometimes they're like, I don't want to learn anything. I don't want to be challenged. I just want to go to class. I want to pay my money and then I want to get my degree. And that's not the way to look at it. Like you don't go to McDonald's and order a hamburger and then leave before they give it to you. Like you have to get what you pay for. So you have to do
Right.
the work. You have to be challenged. You have to, it's not going to be easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't be helping you. Like we are trying to prepare you not just for a job, but for life, for being a citizen, for being an adult person in the world. Like it is not supposed to be easy. If it's easy, you're in the wrong thing and you need to change it, because again, you're not getting your money's worth if it's easy. You need to look at it as, am I getting what I'm paying for? And I always thought that was a really impactful thing to tell a group of 18-year-old students and their parents, because the parents really listen to that.
Uh-huh.
And it always worked. So, and that leads me into the question I have for you. So one thing I've noticed with students post-COVID is they are very interested in not working for other people. They want to work for themselves. They want to own their business. So as a business owner, someone who's gone
Mm-hmm.
through that, what
Yeah.
advice would you have for somebody who maybe wants to be an entrepreneur, that wants to start their own business, that wants to, work for themselves? What do they need to know? What are some things maybe that surprised you when you started your business?
Oh, wow. Everything. It's shocking. So buckle up. That's what I would say. Definitely buckle up. Famous phrase that you'll hear is don't quit your day job. So my perspective, I worked full time for an organization before I went on my own. That's valuable because then you have a context and a framework to kind of compare things to, which helps us as an adult learner learn new things. When you're in business for yourself, you have to know a lot about different, not only the industry that you work in, but how to run a business. And there's not really anyone out there, at least in our realm. There, it's better now than when I started. Let me say that. That really teaches the business side of what to do. So don't try to be an expert in everything, but be knowledgeable enough about the things that you don't know that you know the appropriate avenues to seek for help. So who are the professionals that are going to help fill in the gaps for you of an area that you don't know? Because could I take time out of my day and learn better ways to run, let's say, like financial bookkeeping, just for an example? Absolutely, I could, and that's necessary. But I'm better doing what I'm doing hands-on and then calling in a professional CPA to help fill in those gaps. So what I recommend is know enough that you know who to call for help. And I think that's how you assemble good teams too. Even on the job front, whether you're self-employed or whether you are, working with a team of people in a different organization, you need to know who you can call on, who you can trust, and who are the experts in the field that you're not an expert in. I don't want to wear that many hats for me. And we used to pride ourselves. I know, gosh, 10, 15-ish years ago in the job market, we would pride ourselves of, look at how busy we are, look at all the different hats we wear. Truthfully, I think that that's a disservice to us. I want to see what you're good at. My favorite thing in the entire world is watching an individual succeed at what they're really good at. So I come from a different mindset, I guess. Don't try to wear too many hats. Wear the hats that you're really good at and thrive in those areas, and then call in the experts that are really good at the other things, and that will help. I think that's the recipe for success across the board.
So, okay, I'm going to repeat to you what I just heard you say. Don't wear the hats that make you look ugly. Like wear the hats, wear your attractive and beautiful hats. Like if you try it on, you're like, oh, this looks good on me. Don't wear the ones that you're like, oh, this doesn't fit. And like, I look a little sketch when I look at it. Like that's obviously someone else's hat, right?
Right.
So wear the hats that make you look good, folks. This is my word of wisdom for the day.
I love it.
And any last I'm going to say, I like call them tips and tricks. I don't know. We don't have any tricks. Like who has tricks? You shouldn't have tricks. You should be truthful. But any tips and tricks for people who might be looking for some work or wanting to start their own thing, anything that's top of mind for you?
Sure. I guess the one thing that resonates with me, two things. One, dream, dare to dream. It's easy for me to say I'm an introvert by nature, right? So I've had to learn how to basically speak to people and work in communications. So that's an awesome skill set. But dream, sit down, take some quiet time, figure out what you're good at. Chances are there's probably more than one thing. You don't have to pick just one, but let that be the driver of your focus. And And then I was going to say something else, and now it's totally escaped me. So dare to dream, and explore and be curious. So those are the other two things. So dare to dream, dream big, because this world needs big dreamers. But then also be curious and just willing to engage and learn. So yeah, my journey's not over. I have no idea what is next in the next chapter, but I will also tell you that at my age and stage of life, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So, and I'll probably be saying that when I'm retired. So who knows?
We work in career services. That's our big secret too. We don't know what we want to do either. That's why we work here. So we can just sample everything. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really
appreciate it. Thank you, Monica.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for inviting me. And thanks for being patient with me. I finally said yes.
All right. Well, that will do it for another episode of Behind the Bearcat. We'll talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, be sure to give us a thumbs up below. That helps out. Also, if you've not done so yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Also, we'd love to connect with you on social media. You can find Behind the Bearcat on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Plus, the audio podcast comes out on Fridays on all the major podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching Behind the Bearcat, and as always, we'll talk to you next time.